Okay, hi Sarah. I know we've spoken about this before, but we're going to go through very specifically the rules of your approach. Um, Couple of things that we still need to work on, and you're certainly getting better at it, and it's wonderful. I really appreciate you putting the time in. But some things to talk about: the length of your approach is just wonderful. Remember, speed is a function of stride length and frequency. The more steps you have, the longer they are and the greater the frequency, the faster you go. And all of that potential energy is going to turn into kinetic energy. And just to recap, that potential energy turning into kinetic energy is going to lift your body off the ground and make you hit the ball harder. And we've always talked about how it's always to the second power. So a 2% increase in your approach will generate 4 times the kinetic energy. 4 will generate 16, 5, 25, 6, 36. You get my point. It's not one for one. So this time and distance that you have to accelerate to the ball is a wonderful thing. So let's kind of go slowly, and this is only one approach, and at least it'll give you an idea of what we're talking about in more detail and things to think about when you come back into the gym to work. So anyway, great start to your approach. Love how you're outside, and you're supposed to be outside. Your hips are supposed to be pointed at the center, so you get this right hip into the mix as far as torque when you're done. And we'll check that too. Because your body's angled this direction, your right hip is back. When you hit, and the easiest way to see it, Sarah, when you look at videos that your parents take or anything that you see, right hip is back. But if your right feet are both pointed at the net, when you're done, then you closed your hip and you generated the torque necessary. Remember, torque is rotation on an axis, and if I draw a line down the middle of your body, if you rotate on that axis, you're generating torque, which is going to bring more power to the ball. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. Great start. First step is directional. It's supposed to be smaller. And when I say directional, this step is going to be, because you're stepping with your left, you're going to have a 3-step approach here because you started with your left. 4 is better, but that's a whole new neurological pathway. We can get to that some other point or some other time. But first step is directional. So if the set is inside, this step is step into it. If it's outside, this step is step into it. But it has to be your first step that's directional. You don't want to make these directional steps mid-approach, because then you're changing directions, losing speed, which is denying that kinetic energy. Great drive to the ball, good lean, so you're in a sprinter's posture, which is exactly what you want. I'm going to go back, Sarah. Take a look at it again, because I hit the pause button too quickly. But I want to look at your arm mechanics, and that is something we've talked a lot about. Remember, your arms are supposed to come back symmetrically together. Doesn't matter where your arms start, okay? If they start up here or down here, whatever, all that matters is how they come back. And you want depth in your backswing so you can throw more weight at the ground, weight coming from your arms, which is going to create a stretch shortening cycle in your lower body, okay? The easiest way to describe it is it's going to compress a spring. So your upper body and your lower body don't work together to jump until your arms are sitting at neutral, and I'll show you that too. But the more weight you throw at the ground, the more you're going to compress the muscles concentrically in your lower body to create that stretch shortening cycle, or that compression. Then when your arms come past neutral to come forward, it's going to help accelerate that energy that was stored in your lower body. So it doesn't matter where they start. Just beautiful backswing, Sarah. They're symmetrical, they're together. Remember, if this one's taking a different plane or axis, or going in a different direction, then you're going to rotate weight through your hips, well, actually through your whole body. But your arms are coming back together with great depth. This is really uncommon to see this kind of depth in a backswing. So time and distance, just like your speed in your feet, you know, the fact that if these steps are faster and longer, you're going to go faster. Well, this has plenty of time to accelerate into the ground, which is going to create a larger stretch shortening cycle in your lower body. Good drive to the ball. Feet are pointed where they're supposed to be. at the setter, good foundation, maybe a little wide, but I think that's kind of nitpicky. So now that your arm has come from up here to here and coming around, you're now starting to open or unload this energy that was stored in your lower body with both arms. You're opening the spring. Left hand's supposed to point to the ball. You're gonna throw it away, and it's gonna help bring your right hip around, just like a baseball pitcher would do. Feet have to come off together, but because they're pointed at the center perfectly, Sarah, you're going to see that both these feet come off the ground together. If this foot is pointed in this direction and this one is in the direction it's in, this one is going to come off the ground, then this one is going to come off the ground. So you've shifted that body weight, and now you're 1 foot jumping. But I can virtually promise you that right now your feet are going to come off the ground together, and this is going to be perfect just by the angle of your feet. And you saw they did. Great pike in your back. Okay. Here's one thing we need to talk about, but we'll come back to it. This pike is also torque, because this shape, if it turns into this shape when you're done, then you've created more torque. And again, just like we drew a line through the middle of your body, if we draw one this way, you're going to rotate on this axis to generate torque. And if your hip comes forward, then what you should look like instead of this shape when you're done is this shape. And everything looks good. Elbows too low, Sarah. Ball's going to drop, and we need to get this elbow up a little bit higher. This is certainly better than it was, and I'm very encouraged by it. And I think it's wonderful, the progress you've made. But we need to get your posture a little bit higher. Just getting this elbow up a little bit more, but everything else looks fantastic. You see that you're starting here, and you're going to end up in a broad jump a little bit. Well, remember, you hit the ball with your whole body, not just your hand. So you want to travel through the ball, okay? And you're going to do that. It's almost impossible for you to go straight up in this shape. And it's exactly what you're supposed to do. So now you can see that pike's going out of your back. Right hip is starting to come around. Good reach, even though the picture's not very good, but you can see it. And you've landed with your hip rotated. You did land on 1 foot. I'm going to go back and show you. This isn't affecting your hitting, but it is going to affect your injury possibilities. So it is something we need to work on to take away. But this looks great. It's good power. You're in a power triangle. The ball's out in front of you. Okay. Remember, it's start, accelerate, de-elevate, arms loose, elevate, feet behind the ball. And you can see that this is not in a straight line. Straight line would be here. So it's in a power triangle. Ball's out in front of you. You're using good muscle groups to hit the ball, front, back, shoulders, everything, plus keeping your vision. Because if it's out in front of you, then you can see the blockers, which is what we want. And you can see you're landing on 1 foot. Whatever your weight is on 2 feet, same on 1. So we need to kind of take this out of it. And I don't want you to be injured when you're 40 years old. So we're going to work on taking this out. So a couple of things. Elbow up, landing on 1 foot. But everything else there just looks fantastic. It really does. And I'm so happy for you. And I know you're working hard, and you really do deserve to improve upon these things. And you have. And you're such a good kid. Look at your little smile. See, this elbow's really low. Good reach. Very good. Ran under it a little bit. See, now you're in a straight line with your feet. Don't be misled by the fact that your feet are this far ahead of the ball right now. It's not really your feet that matter. We want them behind the ball, but you're bent. So if you think about it, your body is in alignment with it. So it's not, you didn't run under it that much. But once you run under the ball, your shoulders doing most of the work, and chest and back are not being involved in the attack. And that's just something to think about. Really what this comes from is this set was bad. It looks like it's 4 or 5 feet off. So you took off too early. And remember, you have the discipline to stay back and everything will be okay. Just stay back. So, looks really good, Sarah. Looks very good. I'm happy with it. I think you should be too. So just things to keep working on, and we will, and we'll get them fixed.